Today's video will discuss chapter 2.3, subtracting integers. So I want to start with a very basic problem, one you hopefully know the answer to. And I want to talk about how it is that you would solve this using a number line. So if you were to start at 0,
Miss Vicky, please come to the office, Miss Vicky.
You would jump 2 spots to 2, and then this tells us we need to come back 1. We would end up with 2 minus 1 equals 1. However, another way that you could write this is if I went 2 spots, that would be my 2, and then I want to add negative 1. And so this diagram on this number line actually demonstrates both of these expressions. So the idea is that you can take these two signs and turn them into subtraction, or the other way around, you can take subtraction and turn them into these two signs. So subtracting a number is the same as adding a negative. Now, let's try this with a problem like this. Now we're going to try to not use a number line to solve this problem, and so I could rewrite this as 6 plus negative 15. And if you remember in the last lesson, we talked about how you would add these. I would look for the absolute value of 6 and the absolute value of 15, and so I know the absolute value of 15 is larger than the absolute value of 6, meaning this sign is going to end up being part of my answer. So I know I'm going to have a negative answer, and so when I go 15 minus 6, I end up with 9. So I know that my final answer is going to be negative 9. All right, now what happens when you get a negative to start? This is where that trick really comes in handy. So I got negative 7. I'm going to change this subtraction sign into a plus negative 8. So I now have negative 7 plus negative 8. And if you remember in the last lesson we talked about when both of the integers share the same sign, you can just add them. And since they share the same sign, they will keep that sign, which means my answer is going to be negative. And 7 plus 8 is 15. All right, now I have 2 problems for you to practice. Sorry, almost hit you with that one. Please pause the video at this time to practice these problems. So for this first one, you hopefully did something along the lines of, sorry, I almost forgot the 1 there. And the absolute value of 15 is greater than the absolute value of 4, so 15 minus 4 is 11, and I know that this is negative, so my answer would have to be negative 11. And then over here I want to go negative 3 plus negative 6. Right, I'm going to go 3 plus 6 is 9. And since they're both negative, I know my answer is going to end up being a negative answer. Negative 9. All right, so the next problem I want to talk about is one where you're subtracting a negative. Okay, and the idea, and a lot of people learn a trick where you can change both signs. There's a reason why you can change negative and negative, and so as long as I change both of the signs, I'm allowed to do it. So for example, if you come back to this problem, this is kind of like subtracting a positive 15. And so I'm going to change both signs, and now I'm going to add, and I'm going to make this negative. So instead of subtracting positive, I'm making it adding negative. I basically flip both signs. Well, the idea is I can do the same thing here. My 3 is going to stay the same, but I'm going to flip this sign and flip this sign, so this becomes adding a positive 5, and I'm not going to write the second positive because we assume that it's there. Just like we know this number is a positive, we don't have to put a plus in front of it. So I got 3 plus 5, and so this is 8. So remember that both of these turn into an addition sign. All right, now you practice one. Negative 5 minus negative 11. Please pause the video at this time to practice this problem. So I'm throwing something a little different at you because this is a negative number in front, but then these two are going to become plus 11. So I got negative 5 plus 11. The absolute value of 11 is greater than the absolute value of 5, so I'm going to subtract these. I'm going to get 6. Since 11 is positive, my final answer is 6. All right, so now let's turn it into algebra. If A equals 4, B equals 3, and C equals negative 10, what is A minus B minus C? Okay, now keep in mind this is where order of operation is going to come into play. A is 4, minus B is 3, minus C is negative 10. So what I want to do next is make sure that I change these two into a plus. So this is going to become 4 minus 3, and this is going to become plus 10. Okay, now this is where it's really important that I do order of operation. Remember, it's PE, and then P is the first step, E is the second step, M and D are on the same step, and A and S, addition and subtraction, are on the same step. So it depends which one comes first. Since subtraction is coming first, I first would need to subtract, and then I'm going to add. Right? It is not going to be 4 minus 13. It should be 1 plus 10. So my final answer is 11. All right, you practice. M minus N plus P. If M is negative 3, N is negative 5, and P is negative 2. Please pause the video at this time to practice this problem. So this is going to be negative 3 minus negative 5 plus negative 2. You have a lot of signs going here, so the idea is that we want to kind of simplify before we start really working on this. And I'm going to change this to negative 3, and this can become plus 5. And then I'm actually going to change this to minus 2. And some of you may see why I would want to do that now, but eventually this is hopefully going to make this problem a little bit easier. So negative 3 plus 5, remember I have to go from left to right. Negative 3 plus 5 is positive 2 minus 2. Now had you left this as this sign, you would have 2 plus negative 2, which is the same thing. 2 minus 2 is 0. All right, thank you for watching the video. Have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow in class.